The gleaming corporate headquarters of TechVision Solutions buzzed with excitement. Investors and press filled the main conference room, eager to witness what was being called the tech IPO of the year. I adjusted my glasses and slipped into a seat at the back, just another face in the crowd. "Ladies and gentlemen," the investment banker announced, "please welcome TechVision's founder and CEO, Andrew Porter." My ex-husband strode onto the stage like he owned the world, his $5,000 suit perfectly tailored, his hair perfectly styled. He looked every inch the successful tech entrepreneur. The audience burst into applause. "My name is Olivia Chen, and 5 years ago, Andrew Porter stole my dream. TechVision's revolutionary ad-driven security system," Andrew began, his voice smooth and practiced, "represents a complete paradigm shift in how we protect sensitive data. Our proprietary algorithms can predict and prevent cyberattacks before they happen." I pulled out my tablet and checked the timestamp on my email. 3:45 p.m. In 15 minutes, everything would change. "The journey hasn't been easy," Andrew continued, clicking through his slides. "When I first conceived of predictive cybersecurity, everyone said it was impossible. But through sheer determination and countless sleepless nights of coding, we proved them wrong." I bit back a laugh. Those sleepless nights had been mine, hunched over my laptop in our tiny apartment while Andrew told me I was wasting my time. "Nobody's going to buy security software from a woman," he'd said back then. At the time, I was working as a cybersecurity analyst at a major bank, developing my idea for an AI-driven security system in my spare hours. Andrew, between startups and living off my salary, had been busy networking at tech parties. "The core of our technology," Andrew was now saying, "lies in our unique approach to machine learning. Our algorithms don't just react to threats, they learn, adapt, and evolve." My algorithms. The ones I'd spent 3 years developing, testing, refining. The ones stored on my laptop, the laptop that mysteriously crashed the day after Andrew moved out. He'd offered to take a look at it before he left. I'd declined. What he didn't know was that I'd already seen the signs, the late-night phone calls, the sudden interest in my work after years of dismissal, the detailed questions about my development process. So I'd taken precautions. "TechVision's technology is protected by multiple patents," Andrew said proudly, displaying a slide full of patent numbers. "Our intellectual property portfolio is rock solid." I checked my phone again. 3:55 p.m. In 5 minutes, my lawyer would be delivering some very interesting documents to the SEC and the Patent Office. "Now," Andrew continued, "I'm excited to announce that following today's IPO, we'll be expanding into the European market. Our projections show." He stopped mid-sentence as the door opened and a man in a suit entered, whispering something to the investment banker. The banker's face went pale. "Mr. Porter," he said quietly, "we need to pause the presentation. There's been a development." Andrew's confident smile faltered. "Whatever it is can wait. We're in the middle of—" "Sir," the man interrupted, "the SEC has just received a patent challenge. They are halting the IPO pending investigation." The room erupted in murmurs. Investors checked their phones. Reporters started typing furiously. "That's impossible." Andrew snapped. "Our patents are solid. Who's making this challenge?" That was my cue. I stood, removing my glasses. "I am." Andrew's face went from confusion to shock to pale recognition. "What are you?" "Hello, Andrew," I said, my voice carrying in the now silent room. "It's been a while." I walked to the front, pulling out my tablet. 5 years, to be exact, since the day you left with a copy of my source code and a dream of becoming a tech CEO. "This is ridiculous," he sputtered. "Security, get her out of here." "I wouldn't," I said calmly, "unless you want to explain to these investors why you're trying to silence the original patent holder of your core technology." I connected my tablet to the presentation screen. The room gasped as my documentation appeared. Patent filings dated 3 years before TechVision's source code commits, development logs, and, most damaging of all, emails from Andrew himself discussing how to steal and repurpose my work. "You see," I continued, "while you were busy filing patents on stolen technology, I was building a paper trail. Every development log, every test result, every piece of code, all authenticated and time-stamped. And now, just as you're about to cash in on my work, It's time for the truth to come out. Andrew's face had gone from pale to red. You're lying. I developed this technology myself. Everyone knows. Everyone knows what you told them, I cut in. But the evidence tells a different story. Would you like me to walk through the code base? Explain how the neural network architecture works? Because I can. Can you? The investment banker was frantically reading his phone. Mr. Porter, he said, the SEC is filing these documents. They appear legitimate. Of course they're legitimate, I said. Just like the cease and desist order your legal team should be receiving right about now. Right on cue, Andrew's phone buzzed. He looked at it, and I saw the moment he realized everything was falling apart. But I wasn't done yet. The next hour in that conference room was like watching a sandcastle crumble under an incoming tide. As I walked the audience through my documentation, Andrew's carefully constructed facade cracked. The neural network architecture, I explained, pulling up the original code, was designed to mimic human intuition and pattern recognition. Each layer learns from previous cyberattacks to predict future vectors. An investor leaned forward. This is remarkably similar to TechVision's current system. Identical, actually, I corrected. Down to the comment structure in the code. Andrew didn't even bother to change my variable names. Andrew, silent until now, finally found his voice. This proves nothing. Anyone could have written similar code. The concept of AI-driven security was obvious. Then explain how it works, I challenged. Explain the quantum-resistant encryption protocol I embedded in the third layer. Explain why I chose a modified sigmoid function for the neural activation. His face went blank. Actually, I said, pulling up another document, it's all detailed in my original patent filing, the one I submitted 3 years before TechVision even existed. The investment banker huddled with his legal team. Their faces grew more concerned by the minute. This is a shakedown, Andrew announced, trying to regain control. She's my ex-wife, obviously bitter about our divorce, trying to extort money from a successful company. I held up my hand. Let me stop you right there. This isn't about money, Andrew. It's about truth. About credit where it's due. I turned to the room. 5 years ago, this man stole my work, my dreams, and tried to build his success on my innovation. Today, I'm taking it back. Andrew laughed, a thin, panicked sound. You can't just walk in here, Anne. Actually, I interrupted, nodding to my lawyer as he entered the room, I can. The patent office has already initiated an investigation. The SEC is halting the IPO pending their findings. And most importantly, I paused, savoring the moment, I've just acquired. The room erupted in chaos. Andrew's face went from red to white. That's impossible, he whispered. The majority shares are held by venture capital firms. Were held, I corrected smoothly. Until this morning, when Quantum Ventures acquired their positions. I paused, letting the murmurs ripple through the crowd. Would you like to know who owns Quantum Ventures, Andrew? I didn't wait for his response. Instead, I pulled up the final document, incorporation papers showing me as the sole owner of Quantum Ventures, the investment firm that had just become TechVision's majority shareholder. You see, I continued, while you were busy playing tech CEO, I was building something of my own, a venture capital firm specializing in cybersecurity startups. We've been quietly acquiring shares in TechVision for the past year, waiting for this moment. The investment banker approached, his expression grim. Mr. Porter, given these developments, we have no choice but to suspend the IPO proceedings. The SEC will want to. This is a trick. Andrew interrupted, his voice rising. A manipulation. You can't just walk in here and destroy everything I've built. Everything you've built. I repeated softly. Let's talk about what you actually built, Andrew, a house of cards based on stolen technology. A reputation built on lies. I smiled. And now, it's all coming down. The next few weeks were a whirlwind, legal proceedings, press conferences, corporate restructuring. TechVision's board of directors held an emergency meeting, and faced with overwhelming evidence, they voted to remove Andrew as CEO. I sat in what had once been his office, now mine, reviewing the damage he'd done to my original code. The changes he'd made over the years were mostly superficial, like a new paint job on a stolen car. "Ms. Chen," my assistant said, poking her head in. "Andrew's lawyers are here. They say they have a proposal." "Send them in," I replied, not looking up. Two expensive suits entered, briefcases in hand, their faces tight with concern. I recognized them from our divorce 5 years ago. They'd been just as condescending then. "Mrs. Porter," one began. "Ms. Chen," I corrected, finally looking up. "What can I do for you, gentlemen?" They exchanged uneasy glances before the older one spoke. "Our client is prepared to make a very generous settlement offer. In exchange for dropping the patent challenge and signing an NDA regarding the origins of the technology, he's willing to offer $20 million. I actually laughed. $20 million? For technology worth billions, technology protecting the data of Fortune 500 companies worldwide. $30 million, the younger lawyer jumped in. Plus a public statement acknowledging your contributions. I stood and walked to the window, overlooking the city. Let me be clear. This isn't about money. It's about recognition and justice. Your client didn't just steal my code. He tried to erase me from my own creation's history. "Ms. Chen," the older lawyer said carefully, "litigation could take years. The publicity could damage the company's value." "The company's value is already damaged," I cut in, turning to face them. "Because it was built on lies. But I'm going to fix that, starting today." I took a step closer. "Here's my counteroffer. Andrew publicly admits to stealing my technology, resigns from the board, and transfers all his remaining shares to a foundation I'm establishing to support women in tech. In exchange, I won't press criminal charges for intellectual property theft." They stayed, stunned. That's everything he has left," the younger one protested. "No," I said quietly. "What he had was an opportunity to build something legitimate, to be a real partner in innovation. Instead, he chose to steal and lie. These are the consequences." After they left, I called an all-hands meeting. The company's employees deserved to hear the truth directly from me. Standing on the same stage where Andrew had stood just weeks earlier, I looked out at hundreds of nervous faces. "Tech Vision isn't going anywhere," I began. "The technology works, I should know. I created it. But we're going to rebuild this company on a foundation of truth and innovation, not lies and theft." I clicked through slides showing my original development work, the evolution of the technology, and our path forward. "Some of you may have questions about your jobs, about the future," I said. "Let me be clear. If you're here to innovate, to create, to make the digital world safer, you have a place here. But if you're here because Andrew promised you riches built on stolen work," I gestured toward the door, "there's your exit." Over the next few months, we transformed Tech Vision. I brought in my own team from Quantum Ventures, promoted talented developers Andrew had overlooked, and refocused the company on genuine innovation. The press couldn't get enough. "Tech's greatest heist exposed," one headline read. "Woman reclaims stolen innovation," proclaimed another. I gave a few interviews, not to gloat, but to send a message to women in tech everywhere: don't let anyone steal your dreams. A year later, we finally had our IPO. The company, now renamed Chen Security Solutions, was valued at 3 times what Tech Vision had ever been. More importantly, we'd built something real. Something honest. As for Andrew? Last I heard, he was trying to start a new company. But investors were wary. Apparently, having a reputation for stealing intellectual property wasn't great for business. The day after our successful IPO, I received a package. Inside was a familiar laptop. My old one, the one that had crashed 5 years ago. There was a note in Andrew's handwriting. "You were right. I was wrong. I'm sorry." I plugged in the laptop, not surprised to find the hard drive wiped. But it didn't matter anymore. The truth had come out. Justice had been served. That evening, I sat in my office, looking at an old photo from graduate school, me at my first hackathon, beaming with pride over code I'd written. I thought about that young woman, full of dreams and determination, and wished I could tell her that everything would work out, even better than she imagined. My phone buzzed. A message from my new head of development. "The quantum encryption upgrade is ready for testing. Want to take a look?" I smiled, opening my laptop. This was what real innovation felt like. Not stolen dreams and borrowed glory, but genuine creation and honest achievement. On my way, I replied, heading to the development floor where my team waited. This was my company now, built on truth, run with integrity, and changing the future of cybersecurity. And the best part? I didn't have to hide in anyone's shadow anymore. The story of how Andrew Porter stole my technology would always be part of my history, but it wasn't my future. My future was in the lines of code I was writing, the innovations we were building, and the example we were setting for the next generation of women in tech. Sometimes, I realized, you have to lose everything to gain something greater. You have to have your dreams stolen to learn how to rebuild them stronger. And sometimes, justice doesn't come in the form of revenge, but in the quiet, powerful truth of finally being heard.